Rock Guys would like to welcome Jeff Scott Soto, W.E.T. Hey, man, what's up? What's going on today?
Brian, what's happening, man?
Great.
It's been a while since the last time we talked.
Oh, yeah, we talked about a lot of pizza in New York, and, you know, now you got the new CD, Rise Up. It hasn't been out of my player yet over the last week. I mean, so many good songs. It's actually hard to pick a favorite, yet I do have a favorite, which is Shot.
Oh, awesome. It's so funny. People have their own opinions of what they feel is the strongest or what they feel is the one that hits them the most, and it really kills me. It gets to me the most when I hear certain songs that people like stronger than others. Like somebody said the other day that Bad Boy was their favorite one on the new album, and that song almost didn't make it because the label hated it.
Right.
They you know, and other people go, I don't think it's that strong. We actually wanted to open the album with it. They said absolutely not. They wanted to drop it from the album.
Wow.
And there you go. You know, you just never know. And I guess it just goes to show that one person's idea of trash is another person's idea of treasure. So you can never be too sure what people are going to like and what they're going to accept more than others. It's kind of crazy.
Cool. But definitely the CD really runs really smooth, you know, and you got the perfect breaks, especially like my particular favorite song, Shot. You know, like you know, you reach a level and then you go up an octave and then you make the perfect breaks, and that's what I thought made the song for me. You know?
Awesome.
So, but I mean, there's plenty of, even the two songs right after it are just as good, but there's just something about Shot. And
that's awesome. Thanks.
Cool. And
well, these songs got me singing my face off. That's for sure. I mean, the funny thing is, I kind of started slowing down and calming down, singing, trying to impress people how high I can sing, and kind of bringing it back down to earth. And then W.E.T comes into my life and it says, okay, we're going to remind everybody that I can't actually still sing those notes, but it ain't as easy at 47 that it was when I was 27, you know?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And there was two bonus tracks that I actually didn't get, but I did hear. Is that just for Japan? It was Bigger Than Both of Us and Poison?
You know what? I think the way it's going to work out, we just did a live taping, a live filming in Sweden of a show out there that's going to come out on DVD, and I think the idea is, maybe I'm speaking too soon, but I really don't care because nobody put a muzzle on me. I think there's going to be the audio of this show as a bonus CD on the DVD, and on that CD there's going to be the extra tracks that didn't make it on the album. So if I stand corrected if I'm wrong, but I think that's the idea of those additional songs. Cool.
Now, you also did a video recently?
Yeah, while I was out there, the whole idea was actually for me to go out there and shoot a video and an EPK for the album, and of course, Frontier's wanting to make as much of my time out there as possible. Said, would it be at all possible for you guys to put a show together and film it, and so we can somewhere at a later date, probably coming out this summer, if I know those guys.
Right.
Shoot it for a live DVD, and we put all the pieces together, and we. In Stockholm, it's a tough cookie to crack over there because even Talisman had a rough time getting audiences out there towards the end. The home country of the actual bands that are coming from there, they don't really have too much choice as far as audiences. Work of Art and Eclipse are having that same issue, so we were a bit skeptical about how many people would show up at this show, and here we're shooting a live DVD, and it's like, well, guys, even if we get 100 people, we'll just push them up to the front, we'll make sure the cameras just kind of film at a certain level, certain areas, so it doesn't look too empty. Damn thing sold out. We had over 500 people crammed in there, and we could have actually played a bigger place in the end. So you just never know with things, and it was a big surprise to us, and I guess a kind of a testament to how this band is growing, and you know that there actually is interest even outside of our own individual careers and individual bands. Great.
It must have been cold shooting the video because I noticed your nose was red.
Man, it was I've never felt anything like that in my life. For as long as we had to spend out there, it was a rough one. But you know, you do what you have to do for the art, and even if you catch a cold, it reminded me of my time when we did the Color My Ecstasy video with Talisman. It was kind of the same circumstance. It wasn't as cold, but we were outdoors, and I had the worst strep throat. I mean, it was like swallowing razor blades every time I took a gulp, and I was out there just we were working out there for like 7-8 hours out in the middle of the woods in Sweden while it was freezing, and man, it was tough. But this was kind of like that. So you do what you got to do to get it done.
Cool, cool. Is there a possibility of this CD coming out on vinyl?
You know what? They did that on the first album. They did a limited edition picture disc, and it was a really cool item. I guess if something sells well enough, they go to the next extreme of making collector's items and doing extra special things. So I guess that would have to be answered by them, and it's based on if it does as well or better than the first one. I personally feel it will, because just my honest opinion, I think this album is as strong as the first album. I think it's got musically and creatively, it sounds like a band now. It sounds like we did it together as opposed to an individual effort like the first album was more like. Everybody just kind of contributed their things after the fact on the first one, and we just kind of, it was kind of like a music stew. And this time around, we collaborated more, and it was more of a collective effort.
Cool, cool. Now, is there a possibility, I've been hearing about Talisman Reunion shows in the works?
We wanted to aim for it this year. It was supposed to be just a one-off over at the Big Sweden Rock Festival, but because of timing, because of other people's schedules that were conflicting, I mean, when you have 3 surviving members basically all over the map, it's virtually impossible for everybody to kind of meet in the middle and say, okay, we're going to tell our bands and tell management and tell production people and crew people that depend on this livelihood every year to basically sit at home because we're going to be doing something else that doesn't even exist anymore. But we weren't able to piece it together, sadly, on time for this year. But next year, there's a brand new idea that we're going to be pushing for, and I think it makes more sense. Marcel would have been 50 next year. It'll be the 5-year anniversary since his passing. It's more of a well-rounded structure to base the whole idea around, and I think that's what we're going to push for next year.
Cool, cool. Now, on Rise Up, the CD, was there any songs that were, a little bit more difficult to, do vocally than any others?
Yeah, all of them. Come on, who am I kidding over here? They're all impossible to do.
Wow. Wow.
But no, I have to dig into another side of me. I mean, that's one of the glorious things about my career and the things that I've done and the things that I'm still doing is that I have so many different colors, so many different sides to me musically, and W.E.T is just another one. It's one of those things where I'm not using that voice, I'm not using that style of singing, even for my own solo stuff. So I have to kind of dig into that to get that out. It's the same thing as when I'm with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I'm not using, that's not the same Jeff Scott Soto voice that you're familiar with, even though I'm using my isms in there. Overall, I got to dig into another place to find, what's going to work for that situation. And it's the same thing with W.E.T. It's something I've always had, but I don't utilize that anymore. So I have to dig into it and say, okay, I'm going to sing like this. It's going to sound like this. It's going to come across as this. And yeah, it's a little more effort trying to get those things done. And it's even interesting to sing that stuff live. It's a chore.
Cool, cool. Now, when you are singing that song, what goes through your mind? The lyrics or what?
No, not just making sure that it's got the same integrity, emotion, and every situation's different. Every song is different, so you just got to make sure you go into it and make sure it feels right and sounds right.
Cool, cool. Now, is there a possibility of a new Jeff Soto CD coming out?
I'm on pre-production now. Not necessarily. I don't have all the songs yet, but I got all the people on board that I want to work with. Damage Control was kind of touching the surface of what I want to do musically. On the next one, I got more into the hard rock and kind of power metal on some of the things, and I definitely want to lean more towards that on the next solo album. It's to the point now where I've got the melodic side. I've got a nice balance of what I'm doing melodically with W.E.T, and as long as W.E.T's going to continue, and it seems like it will continue, I don't want to necessarily do songs that fit into that category, my solo thing is kind of defeating the purpose.
Right.
But I don't really have anything on the really heavier end that I'm doing musically, and I kind of miss that side. And as I started tapping into it with Damage Control, I realized that I really want to move towards an album of material like that as an entire album, instead of mixing it up and showing kind of pop and too many colors on one album. I think it's confusing. So I think the next solo album is going to be a little more ballsy, and I've got a nice list of people that I'm going to be working with that are familiar names and familiar collaborators, and I think it's going to be a monster album.
Cool, cool. Now, Andrew McNeish just posted his lineup for the Melodic Rock Fest 3.
Yeah,
and
that's
I see
exciting.
W.E.T is going to be debuting in the United States at Melodic Rock Fest 3. That's amazing. What can you tell me?
Well, I've been biting my tongue on that for a while because, especially while I'm doing interview after interview, a lot of the interviews I'm doing here in the U.S., they're asking the same question. And ironically, a lot of them are saying, well, if you're ever in the Chicago area, I'm like, oh, I wish I could tell you. I wish I could tell you, but I can't say, well, maybe someday. Keep your fingers crossed. The whole time I know that we've been working on this and just making sure it was going to happen, when it was going to happen, etc. And yeah, we're excited. The guys have never been to the U.S. They're all stoked to finally come out and do a show out here and even just step foot in our soil. And you know, like I said, this band continues to grow. There continues to be interest left, right, and center. So we're going to follow up with it and see where we can take it. And we're showing people that it's not just a one-off. That it was supposed to be in the beginning.
Cool, cool, cool. Now, how approachable will you be at like Melodic Rock and to the fans?
Approachable, like in somebody wants to say hello, I'm going to tell them to get away from me.
Yeah, no, you know, people coming up asking for autographs and stuff like that. And
no, of course. Yeah, I mean, of course, they usually the fans realize you need your space, you need when you're focused on a gig and all that stuff, but usually it's after the fact, when the gig is done and I can just actually chill at that point. I'm just going to be floating around with everybody. It's just one big hang. I'm not one to just do the gig and hide and go sit in the hotel room, stare at the wall.
Cool, cool. Now the set for W.E.T, will it be just all W.E.T songs, or will it be some Jeff Scott Soto songs, or what is it?
Yeah, well, now that we have two albums to draw from, we have more than enough material to pull off a live gig as we did in Sweden. But because we do, the band is comprised of three other bands, we paid homage to that as well. You know, we did Talisman, we did a Work of Art song, and we did an Eclipse song. And since we have the lead singer of Eclipse in the band, you know, it makes for a much more interesting set than just me singing songs from the first two albums. So yeah, we mix it up that way. I'm not doing any solo things, you know, but anything we do outside the box would have to do with Work of Art, Eclipse, or Talisman.
Cool, cool. Now, is there anything that you haven't done that you really would like to try?
I've never done a country western album, but no, I don't really have any desire to do that.
Right.
Honestly, no. You know, at this point, I've gotten to the point where I kind of refined what I want to do. I've done all the experiments, I've done all the challenges, I've done all of that stuff, and it's great to have all that as my overall repertoire, but I don't have anything that I haven't done yet that I'm like, I want to be, what it'd be like to do this kind of record or this kind of sound. At this point, I want to just refine what I have and continue just blasting it over. You know, I don't want to keep experimenting with things and confusing people. I just want to give them more or less what they expect of me, but also keep it interesting enough for me to stay interested in doing it.
Cool, cool. Well, what is like a daily day for you, like a normal day, if there is one?
Yeah, it's for the most part, I'm working my tail off. I mean, constantly talking to my wife about that. It's like I need a break. She's worried I'm going to have a heart attack with my schedule, but sadly, I'm always working on the next thing or the next five things at the time I'm working on one thing or trying to wrap up one thing, and it's just never ending. There's always something coming up or something going on. Even when I have 2 months off, those 2 months off turn into the two busiest months of the year. So, but it's, you know, I'm just one of those people who it's not that I have to keep working, that I have to work just for the sake of working. You know, the iron is hot right now. I got to keep striking it, otherwise people just forget about me. It's so easy to just be forgotten about in this business.
Cool. Yeah, actually, before the interview, I tell my wife, I said, yeah, I'm going to be talking to Jeff Scott Soto. Oh, I talked to him last time. Tell him I love him and this and that. You know, so like
awesome.
I'm like, what? What do you want? What? You know, because you know, she's such a nice guy, and like I asked people for, you know, when I went online and stuff, I asked people, you got a question? That's why some of these questions came up about the Talisman Reunion and stuff like that. That's from your fans. You know,
right.
So like, you know, they're asking me, and then like I'm getting feedback. Oh, he's such a nice guy, You know, so that's great. You know?
I don't think the Journey guys agree with that statement, but.
Oh well, they're
another
lost.
Topic.
They're lost. You know, they're lost. Everybody else gains from it. So you know.
Right on.
So you know, once again, congratulations on Rise Up. It's amazing.
Thank you, brother.
You know, I really enjoyed it. You know, I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and you know, and that's the thing. We're all really into it. We got to do the album we wanted to do. We put all the pressure aside. We said, let's not stress over trying to make an album better than the first one or like the first one. Let's just do what we do. Let the chips fall where they may, and I think it'll be a great album that way without overthinking things. And I think it is. I think we came up with something really strong, and I'm extremely happy with it.
Cool. Is there any stipulations when you need to work with Frontiers?
Not really. I mean, this was their baby. This was their brainchild in putting the three of us together, and we actually work with them quite strongly overall with the material, with the direction, and all that. They did give us they loosened the leash a lot more than I thought they were going to be on this album. They let us just kind of do what we do because they trusted in us. And in the end, we came up with extra songs, more songs that we originally were planning on, just so they would have the choice to be able to kind of, you know, make up their minds of what they thought would be the final album. So it's really kind of easy. It's almost too easy. It's almost too hard. It's hard to believe.
Wow.
That you can have such an easy working relationship, but also that everybody's just happy with the overall product, and there's nobody. There's no conflict in the way.
Cool. Once again, Rise Up, everybody. Support this album and Jeff Scott Soto. Thanks a lot, Jeff. I really appreciate the talk. You know, would you like to say anything to your fans out there?
The same thing I say every time I'm asked this question. I mean, I just can't be more thankful that I'm still in this position almost 30 years after I started this crazy career of mine, that people are still interested in hearing what I'm doing, that I get the luxury of living the charmed life of being a rock star and getting to sing, and this is what, you know, this is the dream for me. There's some amazing people out there that still want to support it, that still listen to my music, they still want to hear my music, and I couldn't be more thankful.
No problem. I'll see you in September, man.
Right on, Brian.
Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.